Come on in, let's talk today. Questions answered.
Take a look at this bloom. Isn't this gorgeous? Look at that. So I'm here sitting at home and things, and let me tell you something. House of stress. And in this video, I'm going to be retiling. Well, not retiling. I'm gonna patch, but I'm gonna do it myself. I have some tiles that are broken off at home. We have some by the poolside and some by like an entertainment area by the outside bar that have fallen off. And I think with the excess rain from Beryl, a few more. I don't know what's going on. I think the tiling wasn't done properly because they put the tile on trowel on, so it's not staying. And there's a few at the poolside that have lifted. Now it needs to be done professionally, but I don't have the time. And a friend is using the yard tomorrow for a function, so I can't get everything done, find the tile, get a tiler to come in, and I just realized that that's the case for some of the tiles. So you know what I decided to do? I'm going to be buying the, what do you call it, the tin set, which I just did at home and things. They didn't have the spatula thing, you know, that thing that you use to put down the tile, to put down the tin set and then put the tile on. They didn't have that, so I'm going next door to Phil's Hardware to get that. And I'm gonna be answering the question, which you know this channel is about answering questions, of should you own a home versus renting or doing whatever else. And this is not to discourage anyone from buying a home, because then I would be a hypocrite. My experience with owning multiple homes is every single month something needs to be done. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share the pros and the cons. Let's go get the spatula thing now. So let me start driving and I'll take you along.
Piece by piece, find your strength, find your peace. Learning's never been a tease, it's just a breeze.
And I now have our spatula thing. Let me see what the right name is and stop calling it spatula. Trooper, that sounds like the brand. Trowel, notched trowel. We now have it. So we have our tin set, we have our trowel. It's time to get to tiling while I tell you about the pros and cons of home ownership. Okay, this is a continuation of the video where I'll be doing some tiling at home here. I'm gonna show you the damaged areas. So I'm gonna do it myself. I'm just gonna use the tiles that fell off the space or the area and just use some tin set to retile it. And then we can, when I do find the tiles, because that's a part of the problem, when I do find the tiles that match, then I'll call the tiler and they'll do a professional job. But for right now, we're gonna do what's required to get this done. So let me show you the space. So last night we had, I don't know how to explain it. It was like a windstorm, but it just started. There was no rain, at least where we live. We heard it was raining elsewhere. And this is the result of that windstorm. See that? All that debris and leaves and everything in the pool. Anyway, this is a part of the tiling that I need to do. So as you can see here, this one is broken. And I have the new tiles for this, but I'm gonna leave them for the tiler. But this one is lifted. And I think I can retile that. And up here, we have some more. Actually, these tiles have fallen off this area. So this is kind of in the entertainment area because there's a bar there. And one of our son's friends, my stepson's friend, they're doing a little event here. So I want it to be, at least the tiles to be on the wall. So I'm gonna attempt to tile all of this area. So if you look, these tiles fell off like that, and I'm just catching them. So we're gonna do a DIY. And over there is my tin set. And now I know the name of it. It's not, let me turn this camera. It's not a spatula, as I was saying before. Honey, I know it's a trowel. You hear him in the background? You read it on it? Because I know you don't know this. And if you keep talking, I'm going to flip the camera over there. I'm flipping the camera over there because you want to be in the video. I can see that. Hubby is supposed to be my assistant. He's over there hiding behind the ackee tree from the camera. You see how he's quiet now? When camera turn on you, you get very quiet. Anyway, the trowel. And now we're gonna mix the mortar. So we're gonna mix up the material and get tiling. So while I'm tiling, I'm gonna talk to you. I actually made a list here on my phone of reasons that you should consider when renting or buying. And basically the question that we're answering is, should you buy a house? And I'm gonna tell you what I would have done if I had it to do all over again versus what I actually did. So I will be doing probably a voiceover because I can't mix mortar, and can't mix mortar or mix up the tin set and tile while talking to you about this topic. So I'll probably do a voiceover. All right. Now there's one thing that I don't know how to do, and it's I don't know how much water I'm to add to the tin set over there. But I think the instructions are on the actual tin set bag. Let's see if it's here. If not, I'll have to call a tiler or our tiler. Oh my God, these are some serious fine prints. Oh, the directions is here, honey. So it says ultimate one-stop. That's description, standards, limitations, suitability, surface preparation. When under that, mixing, wear appropriate safety gear. So I'll need to go get my mask and my gloves. In a clean mixing vessel, pour 5 to 6 US QTS, I suspect that's quarts, or them have it in liter of clean water. Gradually add 50 pounds of powder while slowly mixing. Use low speed mixing drill. We ain't got that. Mix thoroughly until mixture becomes smooth. Okay, that's not so hard. So I will just have to translate this into gallons. And it says 50 pounds, so I suspect this bag is 50 pounds. Feels like 50 pounds when I lift it. So I'm gonna conclude that it's 50 pounds. We won't need all of that, I don't think. We won't, because if you look at it there, it's not that much coverage, but let's see. I'm gonna try half mixture or quarter mixture and see if that's sufficient. And then we can go from there. Have my equipment ready, start my tiling. And I couldn't find my construction gloves. I have no idea where they are. Honestly speaking, I haven't used them since probably right after COVID. So I can understand why they're missing. I made a list. And like I said, we're answering the question, renting versus buying. And this is a debate. So I want you to tell me what you think in the comments. So the first one is flexibility and stability. Now, obviously, if you are renting and you get a job in another city or another country, you have the flexibility to pack up and go. But I want to argue, because what they're trying to say is that renting is more flexible, so you can take up job opportunities elsewhere, whereas when you buy something, you're more locked into it. And it says here provides long-term stability without the risk of non-renewal, but makes relocating more challenging and costly. Well, I have a different perspective on that. So I'd say this one is a tie. Because yes, the renting allows you the flexibility to get up and move. But in my opinion, if I am living in a house that's mine, whether it's mortgaged or it's paid for, and I get a job elsewhere, it's the fastest I'm gonna rent out that house and move. So I don't see it as a limitation at all, because I'll be able to collect rent to offset my costs to live elsewhere. And frankly speaking, I do it on short-term rental. So this one, I'm gonna say flexibility and stability. It's neither here nor there when it comes to buying versus renting. The next one is the initial cost. Now this one is the big one for me. Renting, lower initial costs with only a security deposit needed. Buying requires significant upfront costs to include things like the down payment, the closing costs, and all the loan fees and all kind of stuff that they throw into that equation. Now, this is why I would have done things differently. Now, if you think about a property, let's say your property, and I'm going to just use a random number. Let's say your property is selling for, it has to be realistic, however, let's say it's selling for $100,000. That's not realistic in most places. So let's say it's a piece of land, which is the equivalent of 15 million if you're watching from Jamaica. At $100,000, you're gonna need a deposit in most cases. Some cases you don't, but in most cases you do. And the thing with land is when you spend that money to get that deposit, or for that deposit, you can't go live on the land. So it's money out of pocket that you can't use until you build on it. And yes, the property is appreciating in value, but that only becomes a good thing if you sell that property in your lifetime. Remember, they talk about this appreciation all the time. Take this house that I'm sitting in for example. When we bought it many years ago, we bought it for it was the equivalent of about 400,000 US. I think the mixture is at the right level of consistency, but check and tell me what you think. By the time you watch this video, if it's not at the right consistency, I guess the tiles will be lifting because it will be too late. We bought it for it was the equivalent of about 400,000 US, 400, close to 500,000 US. And now it's valued at probably 2.5 or even more by now because this valuation is dated. But let's say it's valued at $2 million for rough numbers. Yes, it has appreciated in value. But when we were buying this house, we had to come up with, if I remember correctly, of the 400,000, we had to come up with about 60,000 up front to buy this. Now, here is where my opinion is towards renting and then buying later. And this is because that upfront money, it's getting lost in your property. And yes, this property has appreciated in value from 400, close to 500,000 to $2 million over some years. It's more than 10 years, but it's appreciated in value significantly during that time. But unless we sell this property in our lifetime, we won't see the appreciation in value in a tangible way. Yes, it helps with our net worth and all those fancy things. Who care? I care about cash flow and living my best life while I'm alive. Yes, making provisions for my next generation. But we're not going to make it easy for them because then they just waste it anyway. In most cases, what you want to do is to make sure that they have what they need to be successful if they choose to be successful. Not to give them a gold spoon in their mouth, because I wasn't born with one, and I think it's the reason why I have so much resilience. That said, if you don't sell the property in your lifetime, you'll never benefit tangibly from that appreciation in value. So we need to stop talking about it like it's something great if you're not planning to sell the property, because this property will forever have costed us 50,000 US dollars up front, and we'll never see that $2 million in profit based on its worth now, because we probably won't sell it in this lifetime. Well, I want to, but that's a different conversation for another video, because hubby feels a little bit different about this particular property. Anyway, all of that said, I would have, if I were to do this differently, I would have built my first house, because that house was a family house. We still have it. But when I got to the second house, which by the way is not this house, the second house, I should have bought a property for investment and either continue renting or living in the first house. Why I'm saying that, what a lot of people don't realize is that when you buy a property and you rent it out as an investment property, which means it's paying you, and you can use, if you do it on Airbnb, you can make enough to pay your mortgage and to get enough to live off, or even pay your rent for where you're living or cover the expenses for where you're living. A lot of people don't realize that an investment property still means they're a homeowner. you're just not living in the home. So we need to get that mindset shift to realize that our first big spend in all cases should be something that makes us money. And yes, I know some of you are going to say peace of mind. If you're that person who don't like to step out of your comfort zone, who want comfort, who has a low risk tolerance, and who is seeking peace of mind, my videos aren't for you, because everything in my life that I achieved that I would consider amazing or great, it required some amount of sacrifice and definitely taking risks. So these videos probably aren't going to be in alignment with what you're trying to achieve. But if you're anything like me, who is a go-getter, who, especially was born into humble beginnings, and you don't want to leave life the same way you came in, then you're going to have to take chances. And to me, one of the first big decisions is your lump sum. Whatever you're investing in, it shouldn't be a car. That's a liability. It shouldn't be a house that you live in unless you have a low risk tolerance and peace of mind is more important to you than achieving success in life, right? Then by all means, you choose that route. And we don't judge over here. We're here to encourage every single person, even if you choose a different path. I'm just sharing my path with you, right? But I would have taken this 50, well, back then for that second property, the deposit was a lot of money, because back then seemed like a lot of money, especially because that house was almost 10,000 square feet. Didn't need that much house. That was a regret that I shared on my other channel in a video where I talk about one of my biggest mistakes. But it's a lesson. We learn from it. What's my book titled? No regrets, just lessons. But anyway, some of this you'll see while I'm tiling, because this is too much talking and I'm not doing anything. Anyway, as I was saying, that property, when I looked at what I had to come up with for the deposit, which back then it was a lot of money. If I'd taken that money and put it into an apartment or a house, at the time the houses that were popular, I was in Montego Bay and it was the Gore housing complex. I could have gotten a house with that deposit, believe it or not. It would be a house that I'd need to develop over time if I wanted it to be bigger, but it was a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house with living, dining, with good land size that you could build on. If I had done that today, that property would have been on Airbnb, making me good money, and I would still be a homeowner. And then later on, when I'm ready to either move into it or buy another property, at least I have something that's revenue generating. So that's why on this particular one, I beg to differ a little bit, and I'm inclined to say rent before you buy, because if you're gonna take a lot of money for the deposit to buy, you should just use that to buy a income generating property. Maintenance and responsibility. That's what this video is all about. The tiles are falling off. You have to consider the fact that when you rent, you have a landlord who is going to handle all the maintenance, and that of course is going to reduce your expenses, your living expenses, that is. But as a homeowner, you are responsible for all those maintenance and repairs, and those expenses belong to you. The next one on the list is financial predictability. When you go into a rental arrangement, there's a certain amount that you're expected to pay per month as your rent, right? And maybe every year they'll increase it, but it's not more frequently or more frequent than that. Believe it or not, the second or the third property, I can't remember now, but one of the properties that I'd gotten, I thought I'd agreed to a fixed amount for my mortgage. So I was sure the interest rate was fixed, but to find out the market wasn't doing well, and I got a memo from the bank that my loan payment or my mortgage payment per month was going to increase, and I wasn't having that at all, but I didn't have a choice. So that's an advantage that you can consider, where if you are renting, it's likely that your rent may increase every year or so, but it's fairly predictable, whereas the mortgage payments, they build equity and offer potential investment returns, but they include things like property taxes, which are increasing, insurance costs that are increasing, and mortgage payments that can potentially increase based on what's happening in the economy. The next one is personalization and control. This one now I have to lean towards owning a home because I like walls that have certain colors. I like things a particular way. When you rent, you don't have liberty or freedom to do what you want because you have to work within the specifications of your rental agreement. So for me, this one is definitely leading towards buying and not renting. The next one is increases our market value. I just spoke about that. The tax benefits. When you rent, there are no tax benefits. In some countries, you can benefit when you buy a property from possible tax deductions for mortgage interest and property taxes, along with things like capital gain exclusions on your primary residence. This is not applicable everywhere, but I don't think it's enough to make the decision here or there, but it's a factor that I have to share because it's a difference. And the next one, this is actually the last one, is amenities versus ongoing costs. When you're renting, you may have access to shared amenities, such as if you're in a complex, as an example, where you're renting, there may be a pool, gym, and there's lower personal costs because your rent covers all of that. When you are buying, there's usually a homeowners association or HOA expense that you have to cover if you want access to all of that in the residence that you're choosing to procure. And there's also, like I said earlier, ongoing taxes, mosquitoes or flies, I don't know what those are. Ongoing taxes including property taxes, homeowners insurance, potential HOA fees like I just mentioned, and you don't have shared amenities, which to me that's a big advantage. I've lived in a townhouse complex once in my life. When I just moved from, I moved from one city or one place in Jamaica to another place to start a company, and when I moved to the second place, of course, I didn't have a property there yet, but that was only a matter of time because, you know, we have to have something everywhere we go. So what I did was I was living, the company actually put me up in a very, very nice townhouse complex. It was big, it was spacious, it had all the amenities that you could imagine. But I didn't like the fact that I had to share things like the pool, I had to share the parking space. It just felt like, especially when you grow up in the country, where you have a lot of freedom, you have yard space, you can do a little farming, you don't have anybody disrupting you, although you're friendly with your neighbor, but it just feels different. So I didn't want that. So I lived there for probably a year and a half, while I was looking for property to buy, bought the property, and then I moved out. So you have to consider that as well, that if you are renting, or sometimes even if you own a home, you may not have the kind of privacy, so you need to own a home. So you need to own a home where everything is yours. So that's it. Look at the results so far. Now, admittedly, it needs some grouting to make it look more finished, but better than nothing, right?